Hey folks, and welcome to the Daily Ratings Weekly Movie News Podcast. This week's news brought to you by Can't Stop, Won't Stop. Yes, there are multiple directors and studios with their foot to the floor right now. So first, there are some updates from Luca Guadagnino's new film coming out October 10th of this year. Luca is another director just pumping out material. So last year he came out with the well-received tennis movie Challengers, and then later in the year, the Daniel Craig film called Queer. And he will be working with Amazon MGM Studios for the new film called After the Hunt. The film stars Julia Roberts, Ayo Edebiri, and Andrew Garfield. Also, some more news from Luca Guadagnino. So apparently he's been working with Warner Brothers and the Stanley Kubrick estate, along with the Kubrick family, to make a movie that was unable to get made by Kubrick in the 1990s, and that's called The Aryan Papers. The story comes from the first book by author Louis Begley. The book is called Wartime Lies. Stanley Kubrick was in pre-production for the film and came very close to shooting the project in 1995, but ended up canceling production because of its depressive subject matter and because of Spielberg's success in Schindler's List 2 years prior. Aryan Papers is one of Kubrick's great unrealized projects, and Luca has seen and read through the original papers from Kubrick and would probably use the exact same script that Kubrick wrote. And right now, nothing is confirmed, but Luca has stated how badly he wants to make this project. So we'll see how that develops. It looks like The Resurrection of the Christ, the follow-up to The Passion of the Christ by Mel Gibson, will start shooting this March or April. The film has been talked about for years at this point, and it didn't seem far along at all. Last month on Joe Rogan's podcast, Mel Gibson said he wasn't sure of a time frame yet, and will just have to start pre-production and get the ball rolling. But Gibson is apparently shooting in March or April in Italy already. Jim Caviezel, who played Jesus in The Passion, has been seen with a long beard and long hair as well. Apparently he made some public comments recently where he said that he would start shooting very soon, actually. So The Resurrection of the Christ seems to be way further along than expected, and is now rumored that it will actually be released next year over Easter weekend, which makes sense. Passion of the Christ is still the 10th biggest rated R film worldwide, with $612 million, and still the second best domestic rated R film, making a total $370 million in the US, and that was only beaten out 20 years later by Deadpool and Wolverine just last summer. Director Fede Alvarez wants to start shooting the sequel to Alien Romulus this year already. A few months after Romulus released with modest success last year, 20th Century announced that there will be another film to come. Fede has been working on the script and would like to shoot this year for release of the new film next year. Lead stars Kaylee Spaney and David Johnson are set to return as well. If you know the podcast, you know that I was impressed with Alien Romulus. It wasn't perfect in any way, but I thought it was the best Alien film we've seen since the 80s. So I gave it a solid 2 shoes, no laces. And Mr. Vincent Daily gave it a 68%, not quite as hot on it as I was. The Goonies sequel is moving ahead. The film is apparently being fast-tracked by Warner Brothers. Steven Spielberg's Ambler Entertainment, who produced the original, is also attached. The Goonies just celebrated its 40th anniversary in LA a couple weeks ago, with most of the cast there. No director is attached right now, but the script is being written by Pazzi Pansiroli, who is best known for writing and directing an indie western film called Old Henry, which means that no one really knows this guy. It also might turn out that Pazzi will direct, so we'll see about that. It seems so far that much of the original cast will be back as well, including Sean Astin, Kihei Kwan, and Josh Brolin. Actress Mia Goth will now be joining Christopher Nolan's coming film, The Odyssey. Nolan will be adapting Homer's poem and is set to start shooting next month. The film will be releasing in July of next year, and it has a stacked cast. So first is the newly announced Mia Goth, who's not the most well-known actress, but getting more and more popular. She was the main actress in that horror trilogy of X, Pearl, and Maxine. Vin Daily was very impressed with her acting in those. So also in Nolan's latest will be Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, Zendaya, Charlize Theron, Robert Pattinson, Jon Bernthal, John Leguizamo, and also Matt Damon. So that film has already a huge amount of buzz, and it's not even out of pre-production yet. And now, with Captain America Brave New World coming out, I thought it would be good to do some bookkeeping or get up to speed with Marvel, the MCU universe, like all the films, where they belong, kind of how they all lay together. So, as of 2008, which kicked off the official kind of MCU, that was the first Iron Man. And the latest Captain America film is the 35th movie in the lineup. And remember that the early 2000s Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies, all the X-Men films, and the first 2 Deadpool films, they don't count as part of that. Those are Sony, 20th Century, and or New Line properties. So with the 35 films, those are broken up into 5 phases so far, and there's 7 total phases planned just as of right now. Phases 1 through 3 are known as the Infinity Saga, and Phase 1 started with 2008's Iron Man and concluded with the first Avengers film in 2012. Phase 2 started with Iron Man 3 and actually ends with Ant-Man in 2015. The second Avengers film came out before Ant-Man in the same year. Phase 3 is massive and compromises both Avengers Endgame and Infinity War. It started with Captain America Civil War in 2016 and ended with Spider-Man Far From Home in 2019. So now we have phases 4 through 6 are called the Multiverse Saga. This starts to bring in Disney Plus shows into the phases as well. We're not going to get into those. So phase 4 begins with Black Widow in 2021 and ends with Black Panther Wakanda Forever in 22. So only 2 years for phase 4, but 7 films were released in that time span. Phase 5, the current phase, started with Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania in 2023 and will conclude this May with the release of Thunderbolts. So again, short 2-year time span there, but 6 films are in there. Finally, the 6th phase in the Marvel Cinematic Universe will begin this July 25th with the release of Fantastic Four First Steps. Included in this will be Avengers Doomsday and a Spider-Man film in 26, and Avengers Secret Wars in 2027. And don't worry, the barrage doesn't stop there. After that, the 7th phase will begin, titled The Mutant Saga, and that will span from the years 2027 into 2031. So far consisting of a handful of movies and shows, and heavily getting into the now acquired X-Men. So boy, oh boy, there's a lot there. Let's get into this weekend's box office. And 5th for the weekend was Ni Za 2 with $7.2 million. This is a Chinese animated film that broke weekend records in China a few weeks ago when it came out. It will probably be the most successful movie ever in China, and now a couple weeks later is getting into other markets like the US and a couple others, so it's breaking some barriers. 4th for the weekend was Dog Man with $9.7 million. 3rd was Heart Eyes with $10 million. 2nd for the weekend was Paddington in Peru with kind of a lousy $13 million for its first weekend in the US. And of course, the best performing film this weekend was Captain America Brave New World, raking in $88.5 million. Worldwide already, it's at $200 million. So, it's actually doing pretty good. Coming up this Thursday, folks, on the Daily Ratings, Vince will be watching and reviewing technically 6 films this week. So we have all 3 Paddington films we're covering, and Ivan watched them too. It's for the good of the podcast, so we got those coming up. We're looking at 2 made-for-TV Captain America movies, both from 1979. CBS released these films in the same year. First, we have just Captain America. It's a full-on hour and 37 minutes that premiered on CBS. Then there's Captain America 2, Death Too Soon. That's 88 minutes long, so we're tackling both of those kind of as one piece together. And of course, we've got the big film of the week. We're covering Captain America Brave New World with all of its Harrison Ford Red Hulkness. So that's it this week, folks. We'll leave you today with a quote from a director, Fede Alvarez. There's a reason people use CGI. It's cheaper and faster. I hate that. And all right, folks, the Daily Ratings Weekly Movie News Podcast, that was it. See you on Thursday.